G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's Sunday night. It's a review of the Bulldogs Roosters, which was a great game again for us to win with hardly any players. We're going to talk a bit about that. Lots of Origin talk. Welcome to everyone who's joined already. Come say hello. Timmy's already said hello on the chat. So come in, come say hello. Let's talk about what's going to happen this Thursday, coming up against the Dolphins. I'll give you an early insight into the side that may appear. Sam Hughes could be back. Hearing a lot about that. Also, likely that Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson will play. They were pulled from Saturday's game in order to play. So just wait for a few people to join. Sunday nights, we normally don't get too many people on, but I've got to get this done. And lots happening with Origin. So after the Wests and Rabbitohs game, we'll expect Laurie to name his team, and we're hearing a lot of stuff, some good, some bad. But Stephen Crichton's got a bit of an injury as well. Max King, I don't think will be picked in the initial 17. I'm not sure if he'll be 18th man either or 19th. I think, but he may be in an extended squad to come in. He could come in to replace Payne Huss, who's a 50-50 chance of playing, or he could come in to replace someone else who replaces Huss. So I've got a feeling that we might see Oitika Manu in this match. Although obviously Max King's been playing a lot more minutes from what I can tell and doing quite well stats wise. I'll get the team that I think they will pick. I'm worried that Burton's going to be on an extended bench as well. It'll be just like, surely he can't be 18th man again. Surely he can't be. But come say hello if you're watching. Jump on the chat and say hello. But let's look at the team that we think is going to play on Thursday, because we've got a few injuries. Jacob Kiraz is out for 4 to 6 weeks. So Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson will come in for Crichton. If Crichton's obviously ruled out of Origin, he won't be playing for us either. So he's not going to play for the Bulldogs against the Dolphins. So he's out. And I think Jonathan Sewer will take his place in the lineup. Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson have been playing a bit together on that right edge in New South Wales Cup. As I said, both were pulled from Saturday's game and didn't play. Obviously, knowing that Kiraz had a calf injury and Crichton was going to be picked for New South Wales, they made that call to have them ready for to have all those guys ready. So that'll be a really good opportunity for Sewer, who's been playing well. He's got some great moves. Defensively is where I worry, but they need to get their opportunities, and what better time to do it when we're clear on the ladder on 20 points around Origin time. Got some stars that could be in the mix. Matty Burton may not play either if he's picked in the side. Obviously, and then we've got the likes of Josh Curran is back this week, which is really good. Now, I think what they'll name on Tuesday is something close to this, depending on if Payne Huss is pulled out. If Payne Huss is still in the side for New South Wales on Team Tuesday, I think it'll be Josh Curran, Reid Marnie, Max King, kick out, and they'll keep Harry Hayes on the edge, Kurt Mann, Bailey Haywood, and then, obviously, you'll also have Lipoi Hopoi. I think Curtis Moran and Luke Smith, I think, will be named at 17. And then they'll have an extended bench, which will include Jack Underhill. I'm 100% certain of that. The likes of Jake Turpin, Drew Hutchison, maybe Blake Taff again. And Sam Hughes, I think, will be named on the extended bench. Come Wednesday, I think Hughes will still be there, and they'll decide from a fitness test on Wednesday, which Gus has talked about on X. So we will see the likes of Sam Hughes come into the starting lineup, I believe, if he's cleared. I think he will start the match to get 20, 25 minutes out of him. I think Curran will drop back to right edge and Harry Hayes will take his place back on the bench to play some minutes for impact there. Or they may even just put Josh Curran back into that middle role off the bench in order to give, to come on after that early tough period and to do that main replacement. Now, if Max King is on origin duty, whether he's in the side or on 17th or 18th or 19th man, I think Jack Underhill will take his place on the bench, and what you'll see is a starting pack of, if Sam Hughes is cleared, Sam Hughes and obviously Josh Curran, with Jack Underhill going to the bench, I believe. I don't think they will start him, but they may. We don't know. Whatever happens, not sure if Harry will stay on the edge or go back to playing off the bench in the middle, or whether they'll put Curran there. Not sure what they're going to do with that, but they're pretty much going to be your players they'll choose from. So I expect Luke Smith might drop out of the side. However, he'll come back in if both Max King is in origin and Sam Hughes isn't cleared to play. He will come back in and with Jack Underhill. Okay, so you'll have Curran in, Jack Underhill, Sam Hughes, and Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson will be our new players in the squad. And if Matt Burton's not there, I think they do bring in Drew Hutchison into that team, or there's even a chance that Blake Taff might get a go in the halves, or they put him at fullback and put Connor back to the halves. But either or, lots of options for the team, and hopefully we don't have anyone say any negative stuff. It's next man up. Timmy says, according to NRL app, Tuala due back from injury round 12. Do you think he would turn via New South Wales Cup? I'm not sure. Not heard about Tuala yet, and haven't seen much of him. But I think Jonathan Sewer's definitely got the, I think it's too much of a risk to bring Tuala in off that injury, unless they look, if they play him, he's obviously ready. But I think Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson are going to come into that side. G'day, Elaine. Welcome. No, that's okay. That's all right. We'll get here eventually. Sunday nights, people are normally, getting ready for work next week and that sort of stuff. So whoever comes, it's a good discussion either way. Max King will retain his number 8 jersey and Curran number 10 and Hayward replace Mann in the 13. Yes, if Kurt Mann does get selected for Queensland, that's the other one I forgot to mention. I'm still not 100% convinced he will. We often hear stories like that, and they don't prevail. But if he does, Hayward would come into the side, and I think they would bring Jake Turpin as that smaller sort of bench utility that'll play a bit of small lock off the bench. I think they'll bring him, and if he doesn't get a go, or if he's not ready, I think Drew Hutchison would be the next one in line. I'm hearing Mann will be 14 for Queensland. Yeah, lots of people have they've talked about that on a lot of shows. Curran could also be potential to move into the lock position. But if Hughes plays, he's only going to play 20, 25 minutes maximum in this match, unless forced to do more due to injuries or something in the game. But that'll be the plan. Yeah, Tim. Jack Underhill will debut this week if Max King is playing Origin. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. He will be playing and making his debut for the Bulldogs if Max King is playing Origin. or if Sam Hughes is not declared fit. I think you will find Underhill will get a chance in that squad. So there you go. G'day, Jamal. Hearing King's in the Origin squad. G'day, Jason. He's in the Origin side. Have we got it named? Oh, look, I think he's going to be in the squad, but whether he's picked in the 17, I don't think he's going to be in the 17 to start. I think he's going to be on standby to replace Payne Huss. That's what I've heard. And if that's the case, it'll be time for Jack Underhill to make his debut. Because like Lukey Smith, I think, they need a genuine sort of big guy. Look, it's going to be tough for Jack, no doubt. It'll be a really, really stern test for him. But one thing I know about Jack Underhill is he's just going to go out there and try and tackle everything that moves. He'll miss a few. You'll see his legs go flying everywhere and trying to make, do his stuff. But when we get back to this review, because I just can't wait to talk about Lipoi Hopoi, and Kurt Moran, I don't think got enough praise for his performance again. I thought those two were absolutely outstanding. And if you're going to credit some players with, just work ethic for turning that game around, everyone did their job. Like Harry Hayes was really good, tried his heart out. You can say positive stuff about everyone in the team, but I strongly believe that Lipoi Hopoi's effort just gave me so much more confidence in this club from what I just saw, just his progression from last year to this year. And I still think there's some stuff in his game that they haven't, will be released at the right moment. I can't wait to talk about it. Bailey Hayward finally running the ball in that type of situation, getting all the reps that he gets without actually taking hit-ups. And this is where some of the detractors of Bailey come from. They're like, he's playing in the forwards in a lock roll and he's got no meters. He's hardly got any runs. He's in a lot of old school minds, that lock has to be taking a few runs. But Bailey, he's more of a hybrid everything amongst there. And it's something they've been doing, for quite a while. That's lovely, Tim. Curtis Moran could start lock. He could. Curtis can play in that role if required. And you can see whenever they're out there and fulfill the roles, they can take it to the line and get a ball out the back. All these players have got the skills to do it. If the hooker's in the line and someone else is a dummy, Reed will do that. He'll engage the line, pass out the back. We see a lot of teams do it. That's the shapes they run, and everyone's capable of doing it. And this is the new way for rugby league. G'day, old fella Dave. King, Hopoi and Hayes were workhorses all game. Absolute beasts. 100%. And King got rattled early. And Hipoi had to come on for DSF. I tell you what, King just kept going and got better as the game went. And as things turn, I've always noticed this with King, he's a really good second hit up prop. And this year and for the last couple of years, he's been our first guy. So, look, I can imagine how well Max King would go after Payne Huss. It's a bit sad that he's not in the side with Payne Huss, because I actually think Barnett's a different type of player. He's a workhorse as well. So looking at it from an Origin point of view, I'd love to see King hitting up after Payne Huss. I think what you're going to see is someone who's going to suit that style of game. And he's playing at a tempo. He's going after the game. He's getting more, he's averaging an extra metre in his post-contact all year. I will say, though, we've had a lot of games, though, where we've had a lot of momentum, and King has definitely loved playing that situation, as any prop would. But what I loved about watching Lipoi the other night was how he generated energy and impact from some situations which weren't that easy. We were really trying to hang on and he was getting us to where we needed to go. And we were winning. There was parts in that first half where we were winning parts of that battle, even though you would say the Roosters won that half, not just on the scoreboard, but with the forward pack and the whole thing. But it completely changed in the second half. We won the battle in the middle overall in the end, I believe. And yeah, I was just so impressed with all those guys. You know, Harry Hayes didn't have many runs, but he was just a tackling machine out there. And that's what you got to do on the edge. And we played left a lot. So yeah, still a lot of variation in their game. They pulled out another trick, it seems. Bailey Hayward running the ball. They didn't expect that. And then runs by Cherry and Burton. You know, it just gave me so much pleasure watching players like Radley and Lindsay Collins just not be able to even get a finger on those two guys when they went for that run through the middle. Like, and I was saying at half time to me mates again, I was saying, you know, we're going to tire them out again. We're playing certain way. Like they sit there and you hear the commentators, Brandy and everyone, they get stuck in the moment. They go, oh, the Dogs aren't throwing much, or they just start talking up the defense of the Chooks. And whilst it was good, we weren't throwing anything at them, but we were throwing stuff at them. We were just hitting them with left jabs, tiring out their middle till they couldn't walk anymore. And just like Canberra the week before, they started to tire in that first half, even though they were running downhill with the ball. All the efforts they put in to have that lead were taking a toll on them. And our lads just were quite happy, you know, just to keep running it back through the middle, make their forwards make another tackle, make another tackle, make another tackle. And then what happens in the end? They concede 3 tries through the middle. That's what happens because they couldn't tackle anymore. And Jimmy Rustler from All Things Bulldogs made a really good point today. What he said was, it's quite funny watching the Robinson interview, and I noticed this as well, and I was just like laughing the whole time. But what Jimmy said was, notice the questions to the Roosters and to Robinson. It was about, well, how do you think you went against, you know, the top of the ladder Bulldogs? You know, and you had lots of opportunities. You had the lead against the competition leaders. No mention of how many players we were missing. No mention of losing our prop in the first 10 minutes of the game in Daniel Saluka Fafita. No mention of any of that. Right? No mention of the fact that the value of the players they had on their field was, you know, at least $1 million more than what we had on our team. At least. The cost to put their 17 on the park costs a lot more than it did ours. That's how many players we were relying on. That, you know, we had players playing that aren't in our top 30, right? I know they did as well. I think they had 1 or 2 that aren't in their top 30. Maybe 1, actually. I'm not sure if Savala's in their top 30 or not. But no mention of that. It was all like, oh, Roosters, you're playing above. They're still underperforming, guys. The only team that outperformed, you know, I'm not rating our team less than the Roosters. What I'm saying is that we were depleted. We just played 3 games in 13 days on the away, in some tough conditions, and had to do it again. Had to win that game twice. Unbelievable. We're not getting enough credit. That's all right. But they sit there and made out like, oh, we're a premium side with premium players across the park. Well, yes, maybe they are to us. But, you know, no one was talking about Lipoi Hopoi or Luke Smith or Bailey Hayward even a year ago. No one cared. They said Reid Marnie was costing us games, and they said he was hopeless since coming from Parramatta. They said all this shit about our players. Oh, and now suddenly, because we're leading the comp. The Roosters are the underdogs with what they had on the park. please. No Hamaso and Tom Gilbert injured, so out for the clash against Bulldogs and would have been considered for Queensland also. Kafusi could be an option for Queensland. I don't think they'll play Kafusi. I think his time's done, Timmy, but he could be. Averillo to return at his old stomping ground. Both centres dangerous for the Finns. Yeah, that's where everything starts for them, and their little guys in the middle are very dangerous. But not having Hammer is a big hammer blow to them. I'll tell you that now. But their halves are classy. We got dominated early by Spencer and Lindsay. Lipboy turned it around in the second half. If we had less players to pick from than that Mark guy for the Roosters, is an absolute freak of a player. Yeah. I felt Lipboy was turning around in the first half, to be honest, Tim. I felt he was that good. He didn't shirk from the task once. His footwork is something which he never showed last year. He was making great meters, and he was our number one meter getter for the half. He'd made more meters in the first half than Max King and played less minutes. I think Max ended up coming off, but Lipboy played from the 8th minute till after half time. He played 47 minutes straight. In my opinion, when I go back on it, like, it was easy to call Max King man of the match or Matt Burton, but I felt Lipboy hot boy. The way he generated his play the ball speed as well was so important. Look, he didn't do anything special as far as offloads or anything like that, but he definitely dented the line, got us going for setting up other things, and we actually could have got a bit more from some of the work that he did. I was so happy with him, and I can't wait to see him continue to improve. Philadelphia scored a pearl of a try, but his 4 drop kicks counted for even more against us. Marky Mark, that's right. G'day, Lucas. Crichton and Burton for New South Wales. You're not odd. Timmy says you're definitely right about the costly errors of Philadelphia. Yeah, well, Marky Mark, 4 drop balls. Yet Roosters caught him there, man of the match. He scored the first try he got. He had a bit of work to do, but they definitely earned that role, and they're a good attacking side. But yeah, I believe that in that try, I don't think he'll score another one like it. But we'll see. He's definitely a big guy. He's tall and he's got a lot of skills, and he can step off both feet, and he can kick a footy because he's from Union and they've all got a kick. Playing sevens. So there we go. What's the score in the West Tigers match? Rabbitohs 16, West Tigers 12 with 7.5 minutes to go. I don't know who I want. Like, I hate the Rabbitohs, so I'm more likely to go for West Tigers, but Tallis Duncan is in the sin bin as well. And Appy just scored a try. So I'm expecting they're going to name, and then Adam Dewey makes an error a couple of minutes ago. So I expect they're going to name the squad as soon as this game is finished. Sherry Evans to the Doggies. I hope not. Honestly, I friggin' hope not. And the fact that Gould ruled it out. Look, I'm yet to see him publicly rule out a signing and then go back on it. I've said this a few times. Everyone talks about him playing tricks and stuff. If they're with us, he'll say stuff like they'll be the coach here long after he's gone and all this sort of stuff. They're definitely not going anywhere, and then they go. But when it's the other way, once they rule themselves out, I've yet to hear him say it. G'day, JD. Welcome again. Timmy says we love Bert when he kicks the talk. Well, yet again, it's another example of the Bulldogs not playing all their cards unless they need to play a card. They played the Crichton card the week before. Obviously, in those conditions at the court, that time of night, not as easy to play that card. And I think Crichton was a little bit impacted in that game. The fact he didn't kick for goals, he carries some injuries, that guy, and you can see because he does certain types of work in the match depending on what's happening. That try saver was fantastic. But Burton pulling out the spiral bomb at the exact right time. And look what it produced. Drop ball from Marky Mark. And everyone loved it. If he's going to produce that, not produce it again unless it's needed, that's what's great about it. Bailey Hayward running the ball. I was talking about it with all things Bulldogs people. I was saying, like, we're talking about this kid being our half and that, but he's not running the footy. He's not asking questions of the line because he's not even running it as a lock, really. But his passing's been wonderful. His defense has been great. His leadership, his communication, all that stuff's been top notch. His kicking will only get better if he does it more. And he's, growing up a half. He's in that halves academy, like he's part of it. But I think he's our next hooker. And I also believe that they've kept things up their sleeve until they need them. Tigers attack a bit clunky. Moses and Cleary, the halves for game one. Yeah, they'll be the halves, mate. I don't think it'll be Luai and Moses. Well, definitely Cleary's halfback and Mitchell Moses, I think, is the one they all love at the moment. JD says Max King to be picked, apparently. Well, I think he's going to cover Payne Huss. They'll know after a fitness test, I think, tomorrow or the next day. The timing was perfect for the kick, and it was a mental thing for Marky Mark, 100%. You learn that you got a player under the... See, this has been the Bulldogs all season as well. You go back to round one. Burton just kicked it to the one winger the whole match. Toby didn't even kick the footy. They just keep... They're like, if you keep putting it there, that person's going to crack. And if they don't crack, we're going to take so much out of them that they're going to be absolutely have no effect on their attack. They're going to be behind the eight ball. They're not going to be able to help them. So they're going to have, which means we essentially shut part of them down. It's great strategy. Now, some teams just constantly compete for kicks. Well, we do in some games. In some games, we pull it back a little bit. It's all part of the plan for that team. Timmy says, I love how Hayward showed or promoted the pass and ran to find kick out and support. Well, he stepped initially. So he's running at one play, then stepped. So he's put 3 steps in the one movement, and they're bloody good, and went straight through without a hand on him. Really well done. Picked out players that were tired. Like Collins had only just come back, and he just made him look second rate. And then Kikau getting the ball when he did. And I think Kikau was also tackled. If something went wrong, I think we would have got a penalty try or a professional foul, and they would have had one in the bin because I reckon he was tackled before he got the ball. Lucas, it would be good to see the Bulldogs blood some young guns during the origin period. Well, they're going to, mate. And if you look across the bottom of the screen, you will see my predicted lineup for next Thursday, and it's going to depend on some things. If Max King plays, Jack Underhill will debut. If Sam Hughes doesn't pass a fitness test on Wednesday, Jack Underhill will debut. If both are out, I think we see Jack Underhill come in and Luke Smith will stay in the squad. And then it'll be Underhill and Curran and Hopboy as your main 3. Or they'll go with Underhill, Hopboy, and Hayes as their 3 rotation with Curran on the edge. there's lots that they can do in that regard. If Kurt Mann comes out of the side, I think he'll be replaced by either Turpin or Hutchison. I think Turpin's fit, and Hutchison's actually been playing really well in Cup. And I think he'd be able to do that role, especially for Origin. You're not going to bring in Ruben Moyle in that situation. I don't think, maybe Cassius Tia could come in, but he had a bit of a tough game on the weekend. The guys only completed 3 or 4 sets in that second half. It was real frustrating to watch. And the team they played had like 8 first graders in it, and 4 or 5 of them were former Bulldogs, as well as Matthew Lodge, and they had Wakeham and Shop, Dean Madison, who played for us when we were with Mounties. Who else is in there? They had that Vega, who's played plenty of first grade. Paul Lalo, who's played a bit of first grade. Chris Patolo, another one, So we basically had a Jersey flag side out there. And poor Will Afawalo got his opportunity. They pulled Sewer and Wilson out. Unfortunately, I think he got a head knock, which meant that which sort of put us under a bit of pressure with, I think Logan Spinks moved out into the centres and we struggled a bit. But there's some really good efforts in that game, and the amount of defence they had to do to only lose by 2 points. It was 4 tries to 3, but Manly could hardly kick a goal. Jody says, yeah, but I think he'll be starting with him even if not injured. Michael Chamis has said that. Yeah, so Michael Chamis named his side, and he named Payne Huss, Max King, and Mitch Barnett as the quartet with Spencer Lenu as well in that side. I'm not sure if that'll be the team, though, but we will see. Does Chamis normally get the inside mail? Send Kickow at him. There were a number of 40-20 attempts by everyone. Yeah, well, see, I don't mind Marnie's attempts like that when it's planned and they know what they're doing, right? Because they control. The main thing is that they turn the other team around. It's under control and it goes close. And obviously they're at a core, so they practice there a little bit more than what the Roosters would. Being our home ground and stuff. And I felt Burton's, I was sort of like this. I was like, oh, well, this is our day, Burton's missed 2 40-20s by this, by a piece of paper, it was so thin. So an inch out from getting 2 40-20s. And you're sort of like, oh, maybe it's not our night, you know what I mean? Like, we were actually up for it. We were trying hard under some tough circumstances. I wasn't unhappy at any point really with our play, even when we conceded points. So I wasn't really too concerned about it. A couple of unlucky things that happened as well. And then we got some luck when Toya drops the ball over the line. It was one of them matches, quite interesting. Burton kicking game was so good. We played well because I feel Roosters played really good. Yeah, well, we needed to have an improved performance, and I think we did. I honestly believe that was probably our best overall performance since the Souths game. And even the Souths game, I felt were a bit clunky. Won at 32-0. Never under any pressure. But against a better side, I thought we might have struggled a bit. The fact we're 9 wins, 1 loss is a really great effort by the club. So much heart has been shown, so much variation in the way we do things, and horses for courses, next man up, being able to adapt on the run, change our plans sometimes a little bit, but the main common theme that I see is that there's no panic in the side, because when there is, it costs us. There's been a couple of fleeting moments with it. But for the most part, they just stick to the process, keep turning it back inside, keep making teams tackle. And by the 65th minute, 70th minute, teams are on their arse. And they don't have that ability to put us under real pressure by that time. And usually we're running downhill by then. It's great to see how much depth we have, plenty of options to choose from. Yeah, well, it's definitely being tested, Lucas. I'll tell you that much. But the fact that they've been doing that in every comp all season, it's gradually bringing, when you're on the journey and you're watching Jersey Flag and you're watching Ron Massey Cup games and, watching that Ron Massey Cup side, for example, get out to Leeds in most matches and get run down. Just knowing that there's just discipline issues there and a bit of fitness, but you can see what they're trying to do. They're not really focused as much on the result as they are on the development of the players that they know they're going to need to bring into Jersey Flag and bring those players into New South Wales Cup and eventually some of them into the NRL squad. Because as they make that progression, whilst the NRL team gets depleted and hopefully getting, origin players and whatever else, then those players from Cup move up and it all slides along nicely and they're developing their minutes in certain games. It's like, well, you're good enough. You should be playing in New South Wales Cup this week, but we've got two people in front of you. So rather than have you just play a few minutes off the bench, we'll get you playing 30, 40 minutes in this grade to keep your fitness up. And seeing how Larry Magatutia, sorry, I keep pronouncing it wrong and I need to go back to read it. Watching his progression from Ron Massey, he was in flag last year with his brother. His brother went to Manly and played hooker. He actually had a really good game in the New South Wales Cup match for Manly. But Larry's really progressing and doing a good job whilst they've lost the likes of Jack Todd and Lipoi and all these players. Zion Maeu started the game really strongly, probably the best start to a game he's had, and played a fair few minutes. They didn't really give him much of a go, though, in the second half, if at all. But I think it's more about what they're developing as far as the roles go, They have that one player which plays that sort of 20, 25-minute tough stuff and goes as hard as they can. And then from then on, it's all about the longevity and the longer minutes for all the other players coming through. So, Critta kicking. Wow, we found another one. There you go. Critta wasn't kicking the ball. He didn't do the conversions this week. Burton did it. So I think he's obviously got some sort of issue. Do you see Jordy Mazzoni will get some game time in Cup with Sewer and elevates the NRL? Well, Mazzoni's actually been injured, mate. Big Roo, is King Kiraz hurt? He sure is, Big Roo. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Next man up. Do I think Jordy will get some game time in this with Wilson so elevated to the NRL side? If he's fit, he will, for sure. If he's fit, he'll get some time in the Cup. He was probably ahead of Will, to be honest, prior to injuries and stuff. The way that they've done things, because he'd already had a game in Cup this year. Bilal, Anari Tuala, thoughts? Well, Anari hasn't played a game this season, hasn't trialled, was due back this week apparently, and I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about him at training or anything like that, or his progression. Maybe that's a question for Gus that we can put on X and see what he's got to say about that. JD, and honestly, the fact they withdrew Jonathan Sewer, who's been playing at right centre, and Blake Wilson has been playing at right wing from the New South Wales Cup team on the weekend, which is a great opportunity for some of these other players like Hamish Wilson and, they brought Tay Cochran back into the side. They had Will Afawalo and a few others. Cooper Toy came in and played a good game. So they dropped Wilson and Sewer, I think, to make sure they didn't get injured, because they knew that Kiraz had injured himself on Friday night, and they also knew that Critta would be pick for Origin or miss Origin due to injury because he's got an injury as well, which isn't too bad apparently, but they got to see if he's going to be right to play. Campbell Graham's on standby for Critta, apparently. Considering we have so many, mate, it's amazing, really. It's pretty amazing considering how many we have out of the side yet still so consistent. It is. It's 100% amazing. Like, we could make so many excuses for this side, but they're not. And they have full belief. And to see the progression of the kids from last year into this year is even better, you know. Like, you think about how good Luke Smith's going to be next year. And from what I've seen of Jonathan Sewell, he's had a few games where he's made a few errors and stuff. And defensively, they've been under pressure at different times, have different combinations and whatever else, different circumstances. But he gives me every indication his ability out of yardage is really good. His left and right foot step is silky smooth. His ability to finish, his aerial ability, the whole shebang, his speed, he's got it all. And then you start talking about Jethro and you just get really excited, right? But they've had Sewer training in the centres. So I think he'll be centre this week and Blakey Wilson will be on that wing. And I think from an attack point of view, it may be a little bit clunky and they're going to have their hands full with Herbie Farnworth and Jake Averillo running at them. I can tell you that now. They're going to have a real tough time out there. They'll also likely be either Harry Hayes and Sexton or Josh Curran and Sexton on that right edge with them. And I'm not sure how they'll go because Harry's obviously had a fair bit of experience playing with Jonathan Sewer. They've played grand finals together. They've played flag together. So there'd be some combination there. You've also got the Curran sort of just more of that seasoned defender out there, although he's been playing quite a bit in the middle as well as Harry. So either or, I'm happy with whatever they decide to do. I don't think they're going to put Luke Smith in that situation. Yet they could if they had to, but I don't think that's how they're going to roll with it. Timmy, it's been very good, especially during Origin 1. I think Critta will be rested. South 22 defeated the Tigers 12. All right. So, look, I'm going to put up my predicted Origin side, guys. I went with Edwards, Brian To'o, Latrell Mitchell, Stephen Crichton, Zach Lomax, Mitchell Moses, Nathan Cleary, Payne Haas, Reece Robson, Mitch Barnett, Angus Crichton, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, Connor Watson, Spencer Lenu, Hudson Young, Halimi Olakawatu. I had Oitika Manu, Max King, Campbell Graham, and Matt Burton in an extended squad to come in. But we will see what happens there. And I'm sure it's about to be announced. So let's go. New South Wales Origin team. Origin Game 1 side 2025. See if it's announced yet. Don't think it has. I'm just not sure yet. There we go. New South Wales rugbyleague.com. Ampol State of Origin. Not up yet. If anyone gets any access to it, let me know. Old fella Dave, Tigers money's game over, won't be long. Another shocker of round with tipping 4 from 8. Yeah, that's why I don't tip there, Timmy. Just drives me crazy. I'm selfish. Hope none of them get picked Bulldogs for life. You're selfish. Look, I honestly want all of them to be picked, as long as they're not 18th man. I want Burton in the side. I want King in the side. I wanted Kiraz in the side. He's not in the side. He's injured. And I wanted Critta in the side. I wanted the 4 of them in the team. I've got them there pictured. That's who I wanted in the team, because I want to see Jonathan Sewer come into the team. If it costs us a loss, and if we end up, and then if a couple of them got injured in Origin or whatever, and we lost 5 games and it ruined our season, look, I can understand how frustrating and annoying that is. But I can tell you now, our club's in it for the long haul, right? And it's not about winning one premiership. It's not. It's about being a dominant force, capable of winning premierships every single year they go out. And there's only been a few teams that have been in that category for the last decade and beyond, right? And we want to be one of those sides. And we've done a lot of work to get into a position where we can start to dream of that. And that's why it's important that these kids in our side get that exposure during Origin, and they're going to come in and do their job, and they're going to believe that they're ready. The nerves aren't going to be there. They already gave Sewer a crack last year, and he played really well. He made the most meters in the team. Had a couple of defensive issues, but they were getting peppered down that edge anyway, and we're missing a few players. The team wasn't at full throttle in that match, and they come out in the semi and played hard and should have beat Manly. We're the better side, But Jonathan Sewer, he's got his chance there. He's playing really good in Cup, and when he gets his chance this week, I think we're going to see a player that makes a lot of people stand up and watch. Just saying. But he's pretty cool, calm, and collected, and hopefully he doesn't get injured. We've got to pray for him and all that. He's just got to make his tackles, and he's going to play against 2 pretty competitive centres that really attack in everything they do. When Jakey sees space, he attacks it. There's no doubt about it. And if there's one player to come back into our system that I would welcome with open arms, it's Jake Averillo every day of the week. But defensively, he's getting better, as he was always going to. But, yeah, he still has some issues in that department. We're definitely the fittest team in the comp. 100% Lucas. Great to see them all get back on side after the Connor Tracy era. The whole team got back and we're ready to defend the next play in the forced error. Yeah, well, Den and Kemp from bloke.com or whatever focused a lot on that stuff, which was really good, how we get our line set after we scramble so well. And that's just been the key. And look, go back to some 2023 matches as well. I know people don't want to, but when you want to see how it evolves, I remember the rugby league coach Lee. I've got his book, the rugby league coach book. It's great, teaches you a lot, especially if you want to coach, but gives you that broader understanding and sort of puts some of the stuff you see more into a practical way. Plus, it's got a whole heap of, it's not just all the drills and everything he's learned. It's the how and the why as well. I haven't got through it all yet, but I'm getting through it. But yeah, look, even he was talking about, see, what's hard for a coach is when they watch a game of rugby league and they see how a team is performing against their opposition, they can see how to fix things, right? I've really got to let you know, and I think some people will record onto this. The coach had no intention of adapting our side. And whilst that is part of coaching, adapting to what you've got, to get the best of the players that are there. There's always an element of that, but there was a system that they were bringing in, and the only way they were going to be able to find the right people to keep and to who to let go and stuff is to test them through it, and who was going to pick it up, and who had the right attitude about it, and who didn't. Right, and even some of the players that they retained had moments where they doubted it. And you looked at the spacing between the players, and how some players were getting back and others weren't, and then people would panic and rush out of the line. You had players like Tavita would just rush out under pressure. The wingers had come in too far, and then they slide too much, and teams would just slide over the thing while they were still sliding. Jake Averillo sometimes have some issues out there. Braden Burns, all these players they're all trying, but Serrata had no intention of adapting a game plan to, he went out with a game plan that, this is our game plan we're going to play. And when we do all these things that we've been practicing, we're in a great position to win. If we do it and play for 80 minutes, which is the intention, we'll win games. And they did that to some teams. They had some great wins. They had 7 wins that year, finished 15th. Worst defense in a very, very long time. Got smashed by the Knights and some other sides. Scored some really good tries in games as well. The emergence of Jacob Preston, Jacob Kiraz in his second season. Lots to like. But the point I'm trying to make is that he wasn't going to just allow that team to adapt to all their weaknesses and gradually, slowly, evolve them. He needed to find out which cattle he had and who had the potential to implement a game plan which was way above and beyond the players that he had and the cattle he had. And I went back to a lot of podcasts and people, Bulldogs podcasts as well, criticising the coach, criticising the club, saying, that we had great cattle in our team, in our club, and we should be doing a lot better than we are. And there's something wrong with the organisation, and pointing at Phil Gould and pointing at the board and wanting to do emergency fucking meetings and people getting signatures together and shit, and the media inflaming it further. That's the sort of shit that was trying to break us down before we even got back going again, right? Serrata and Gus didn't give a fuck. They brought in their training. They said, we're going to get these fuckers fit if it kills them. We're going to do it however long it takes to do it, but we're not going to sacrifice our progression as a club from where we are to where we need to be in order to, make allowances for people because it might be a bit too hard for them right now. There was none of that. They either jumped on the bus or they didn't. And the ones that stayed on the bus either are still here now and got their opportunity, or have left the club on better deals and are doing all right, like players like Jake Averillo. Doing pretty well in other clubs. Jeremy Marshall King, doing pretty well at other clubs. These players had to learn. And by last year, you could see from round 1 and 2, even though we had no possession, how much better their defence was. And they brought in players like Salmon, who they know will just get in there and get dirty. Frustrate a lot of people because when he's running the footy, he's only making 7 or 8 metres. He's not a big threat. He's not that fast. Doesn't have a huge step. But he's got a football brain and he's tough as nails. And the coach loves him. And we're going to grow to love him too. And we are starting to love him because we can see it now. But sometimes we need to trust the club in what they see then to what they see in the future. And that's the stuff that I'm, as a fan, tried to learn, I've really wanted to do, which is why I've held a lot of stuff in, Dogfather would come out and have a crack at players like Tavita and pull your finger out and stuff like that, but never really criticising these players, always giving them the benefit of the doubt. But our coach come in with a system. Gus knew what the system was. It's basically his, and It's in full play for everyone to see. And you could see last year they're all training the same, all doing the same things, repetitious little things in games. Yeah, it's been a really good journey, and I think it's taught a lot of fans to trust. And and just watching these games, like if I'm going back 3 or 4 years ago, and we're down 20-0 against the Raiders and 14-0 against the Roosters, your mind's just going, what? We're going to get smashed. How much are they going to win by? And then you look at them and you go, well, they haven't had any ball. And when they got the ball, they're not too concerned. They just keep doing what they're doing. And then they just overpower teams at the end. It's just utmost faith in what they're doing and their ability and in their coach. And trust me, guys, there's going to be periods when that comes into question again because it's only natural. There's going to be moments where they're flat, when a few players just can't step up on that day at that time, where their bodies just aren't right. Their minds just aren't right. They're going to make mistakes, going to cost us games. But we know they're going to get back to train, work their ass off, get it back going again, and get us back on our trajectory. I could talk about it all night. Who do you think will play fullback for the Finns? They could put Cody Nikorima to fullback and have Sullivan come into the halves. They can put Jake Averillo there, mate. They could put Jack Bostock there. And I wonder if the little fella that they brought in last year, forgot his name, the little Indigenous fella, he played amazingly last year for him and got himself a 2-year extension from outside of the 30. But I haven't seen much of him this season at all. So Jermaine Asako can play there. He was going to be one of the next big fullbacks in the game of rugby league, Jermaine Asako. Basically, they got a team of fullbacks in their side. Herbie Farnworth wanted to play fullback. Jake Averillo wanted to be a fullback. Hammer wanted to be a fullback. I'm pretty sure Bostock was a fullback coming through juniors. They've got a team full of fullbacks, which means they've got a good side and they're going to be dangerous. Phil for Jerome. Oh, I think he's got 1.2 or $1.3 million. He's got a club that needs him. He probably suspected that while they were building, that he'll struggle to make representative sides. Whilst that's the case, I think they've actually gone better than. Look, I'm sure he's confident and expected them to do well, but a realist would think, maybe. I know Gus would pick Jerome over Mitchell Moses every day of the week. He'd pick Jerome and Cleary every day. Wouldn't matter how well Matt Burton was doing. Wouldn't matter how well Mitchell Moses was going. Gus is picking Jerome and Nathan every day of the week. Without fail. You think Monday's when it's announced? I thought Queensland always name their side on Monday and the Blues name theirs after the last game on Sunday. That's how it's always gone. Luke Thompson. G'day, mate. I was talking about you before in 2023 when you were playing for the Bulldogs. If we want to win the comp, we need big game experience in the good players like Kiraz and King. 100%, brother. And I think they've got it in them. Look, Spencer ran at King, and I think what Spencer would have had it in his mind that they were talking about Max King for Origin, and I think he would have also heard the thoughts from Phil Gould that he wouldn't pick Spencer in Origin because he doesn't play anywhere near 80 minutes. It's good. Gus knows these. What I love about Gus is he really understands the Polynesian people, whether they're people from Tonga or not. And one thing he says is that there's just so much honesty there. So even though people might not like what they're saying, a lot of the time it's not horrible from intent, but he knows how to play them and manipulate them as well. A lot of these players, especially the guys from Penrith. He had a huge role in building relationships with these kids before they even got to the club. You know, when they say Gus is on a, when he makes mention, oh, I was just, what are you doing down there? Oh, I just had to catch a plane and go meet a family of a 12-year-old kid, right? What he's doing, he's building relationships with players all over the comp. And half of these players might not even end up with Canterbury. But I can guarantee you one thing, if he knows they're a good person and they've got a lot of talent and a lot of potential, and they make it, whether it's with the Dogs or another club, he's got that relationship there from a long time ago that he can bring back to our club if need be. It's all about building relationships, and he's got relationships with all these people, whether it be Spencer, and he knows he can talk candidly with them, but he also knows he can say things to get under their skin as well. And what we saw from Spencer, he come out and knocked out Daniel Saluka for feeder with his shoulder. He nearly knocked out Max King, dropped 2 balls in the process, which gave us 2 sets. Did Phil Gould have a little bit to do with that when he baited him? Maybe. It may also, when Daly goes and picks Spencer, which he probably has and probably will, we're going to get a good. And I felt Spencer was really good for New South Wales last season and helped turn the game. And from NRL point of view, off the bench, I think he's just so much better with what he can do energy-wise, even if it's only for a 25-minute period either side of half-time. So he's the right type of player in my mind to have for New South Wales, but Gus thinks we need 80-minute players as much as possible over the whole spectrum. And for us, we want to get players into that sphere because, you know, it not only helps us and helps the kids coming through to know that, oh, I've got to get Max, I've got to take Max King's spot, and because he's gone to Origin. I can't let but it's also great for their careers as well. When, it's part of the recruitment wars, the more Origin players you've got, especially in finite positions like in the forward pack where there's not too many that you can keep for many years because of the demands that they have on them, unless there's really special types of players. But for the most part, it's 2 or 3 years, and then you're on the bench. Then next minute you're starting for a couple of years on the bench, 2 or 3 years in the start, and then you start making your way back to the bench again. See that for the majority of them. And if a player gets to play Origin, the next club they go to pays heaps for him. Look what the Titans would have paid for Reg. What's he done for him? He looks like a third-rate prop, but he can see he's trying hard. He's just not as good now. The game's past him, but it's cost them a bloody fortune to have him come Regan Campbell-Gillard to the Titans. You can imagine Max King in 3 years' time. Probably, if he's played some Origin, he probably goes to a club on 800 or 900 grand, gets a really good payout, and by that time, he's sort of on the way down. That's what I see anyway. That's what I see for the most part. There's a few champion props, and I think Max is on the cusp to potentially becoming one, but he's not there yet. How's Joey O'Neill? Has he recovered from his head knock to return? He'll return to New South Wales Cup this week. I don't think there's a bye. So he'll return to Cup and likely play with Cassius Tia in the halves again, I do believe. And I think Drew Hutchison might find himself getting a game either in our squad if Kurt Mann is out, or on our extended bench, and maybe goes into the game as a 19th man or something. I think he will get some sort of opportunity to do that. Spence could have Trey Fuller come in to replace Hamaso. Yeah, that's who I was talking about, Timmy. That's who I meant. G'day, Sam. Max is a beast. How good is Hayward? Getting better every game. It's great, mate. We spoke a lot about it tonight. And I will have a look at some stats as well from that game, just so we can cheer a little bit more about it. Do we think that maybe Hayward is why Sexton hasn't been signed just yet? No, I don't believe that at all. I think Hayward is look, I don't know. I think that the majority of players that are staying with the club have already been re-signed. I don't think they're going to anyone off contract now. I think you've got Daniel Saluka-Fafita, Curtis Moran, Toby Sexton. I think those three players, I think there's a chance we may keep one of them. A chance. I think Toby's a little bit different scenario. Toby could easily get 2 years with any club, in my opinion, for 500 grand with the level that he can play at right now. I think he's probably could even get a 3-year deal with a club that really wanted a half that can tackle, can kick long, kick short, and, will take the line on. Just hasn't been successful enough, in my opinion, in breaking it. Great to see him get that try. Really made my night. I think Hayward's our hooker. But maybe, it's like if Reid wants to stick it out for next year as well, they might just go, okay, well, we'll leave Bailey playing in the halves next year. Bring through Mitch Woods. He'll make a debut at some time next year. But not like playing there full season. Actually just make a debut. Might bring in Joey O'Neill before then or Cassius. I know I'm saying a lot of names, but there are a lot of options, so bear with me. I think Thompson cancels out Saluka-Fafita, but I really like Daniel Saluka-Fafita. I think he's got a lot more progression in him. We've got Sam Hughes for another year as well, and I know that they've put a lot of time into Sam and really believe in what he can do. Plus, you got all these other characters, Harry Hayes. You got these supplementary players, who's coming in the top 30. Lipoy's there next year. He's in the top 30. I look at Curtis Moran and go, just sign him another year. He's down the order. But when he comes on, he's been absolutely enormous for us. Absolutely enormous. In 52 minutes he's played over the last 2 games, I swear, have been so important to us winning those matches. But I think the club knows they've got players who can do that. They've got a few who think they can do that and maybe influence the scoreboard as well a bit more. I don't know. It's just a really good place for the club to be in. As far as Sexton goes, I think there's still a wait and see there. I think they might extend him for 12 months. And I'm not sure, and he might just take it. But I know he could get more than that. There's clubs who'll need it. Hayward Burton combo of Mitch Woods in the background developing. Could be. I think Sexy offers us a much better kicking game than Bailey. But Bailey's trying things, and if he works on his kicking game, it'll get a lot better. I think Bailey's a left-footed kicker, though, too. I'm not sure. Timmy says I have Tigers just inside the 8 or mid-table, and that's an improvement. Critta's injured, apparently. Yeah, he's got a small injury, but I think it's a quad or something. He's always got injuries. So he's out of our team, whether he plays Origin or not. EK, welcome, mate. If we beat the Dolphins with the buys, we are on 28 points. I believe we'll need 34 to finish top 2. So we may have a chance to rest players leading to the finals, which will be awesome if possible. Well, normally you need about 40 to finish top 2, but I do think that results just keep on sandwiching the competition, which keeps these teams. I think Parramatta are a huge chance of making the 8. I could be completely wrong, and I hope I'm completely wrong. I can't see the Knights turning it around. I can't see West making it. I think there's too many levels they need to maintain over a season. But I do think that they will win quite a few games and finish in the top 10. I think Broncos will get on a roll at some point, but I've said that last year as well, till way late in the piece. I think I was more in denial than Kevin Walters was. And the Sharks impressed me last night, and the reason is because Melbourne come out like they were going to score 60 again. They attacked from the get-go, but the Sharks went after the game. The only time I don't think they'll win a comp though, the Sharks, because in my mind, Nico Hines, I think, is a really talented footballer, and he played quite well last night for the majority. There's still moments in his game where he's just a timid, shy person playing it. Sure, if he put a shoulder into me, I'd probably cry. But even with the kick he took to take that extra 2, there's something in his head, I think, that thinks about things too much. I think he's a smart guy, an intelligent guy, and a really compassionate guy, and an emotional guy. And sometimes players like that, it's very, very hard for them to carry the weight of what they got to carry. Where I look at players like, these Harry Grants and all like that, they have moments where they stuff up, Pappenhausen and that, but they've just got a different mentality. But even Melbourne are struggling with a bit of weight of expectation, and been developing some what I felt were pretty average forwards into giving them really strong returns. They've got a lot of young backs that they've developed, which are really good. Definitely should be a team you'd expect to play grand final day if you're going to make it that far. But I'm not sure whether they're going as good. But look, it's early, and if I've seen Melbourne Storm have season where they're just blowing everyone away all year, and then get to the semis and that, and they just can't produce when they need to. And I think they be looking to time their run a little bit better than they have in some recent seasons. Whereas the Dogs, we're sort of the good thing about us, and I think a lot of people would agree with this statement. We haven't looked close to our best. Haven't looked close to it. We've had so much adversity already, although there's been quite a lot of games where other teams have had adversity and we've just played well. He's just done what we've had to do to win. But yeah, the amount of injuries and suspensions and everything could have really derailed our season. Yet we've still only lost the one game. I think we've lost 3 halves of footy in the whole season. And in the second, and we haven't lost the second half yet, I don't think. Maybe one. So it's definitely looking good for us, because I still feel we haven't hit anywhere near our peak in what we're doing, and have such a high ceiling of where we can go. And when we get our best team on the park, God help them. I feel bloody wrong saying this. We're a chance. I think everyone agrees. We're a big chance this year. It's too soon almost. I'm waiting for it all to fall down. New South Wales team is up. Let's get a look at it. Where is it? I want to get it up. Whereabouts is the New South Wales team up? Sorry, guys. Can someone tell me where they've got the team lists? Please. Oh, predicted team. We need more than 34 points to finish top two. Try over 38. You normally need about 40 to get top two. Oh, fella says Max King 17, Critter at 3. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, JD. Thank you. Thought Kiraz Injured. They just announced he has a groin injury. Yeah, he's got an injury, but he still might be cleared to play. I love the post-match chat between Joey Johns and Marcello, the Chilean Heat team. G'day, Scary. Welcome. Another great game by the boys. And thank you to all those who have joined and become members of the channel. Really appreciate it. Scary and Timmy. Plenty of others. Elaine. Long turnaround into the Eels game is a worry. I think Parra have been improving every week, and Panthers aren't far away from finding themselves in the top 8. Yeah, very true. I think this origin period, though, is the worst time for the Penrith Panthers, I must say. But maybe just a bunch of their youngsters going out there with can go out there and play a bit loose, and they might do all right. But sort of, in a way, wanting them to miss the 8 would be nice. Give other teams a go. Curran and Hughes back are a huge boost. I originally thought maybe Hughes will play a game or two in Cup to get rid of some rust, but I believe we need him if Max King plays Origin. Yeah, well, look, he's doing his Wednesday night TM. He's got his he'll be in the squad. I think he'll be in the shortened squad on Wednesday. Well, he'll be in the extended squad, and then I think on Wednesday before they announce the 19-man squad, they'll know if he's passed a test or not. Basically, he'll have to prove to them whether he's going to be able to go out there and play 20, 25 minutes, potentially starting. Otherwise, they may just give him another week, which gives him 2 weeks off, which is what Gus said. This year is like 2020, 34 could get us there. Either way, we're in a good stead for 40 plus, 100%. But yeah, because it's such a compact comp, and we're on 20 points. You got the Warriors 18, then I think you got 16 for the third team. I think the 8th team might still be on 10 points. I think Souths go to 12 points, and they're in 8th. Cowboys in 9th on 11, and then there'll be Wests on 10. So yeah, it's a very to be 5 wins ahead at the top of the ladder of the 8th place team, or 4 or 5 wins in front. That's a pretty big distance at this point of the season. Josh Kirby hard to stop with his offloading ability. Yeah, he's a good player, Josh. Someone said he should be playing Origin. I'm like, well, he's actually a good player. I reckon he'd give his best. That's right. You're right, TM. And in 2020, I think the Gold Coast Titans made the 8, didn't they? And they only had 10 wins. I think they got in the 8 on 22 points. I think they were about 6 points behind 7th spot or something. We lost the second half against Parra. Yeah. We should have won it, actually. That's when I was critical of Toby in that game when I think Bailey made a break and got the ball onto Tupanua, who went a long way, and then Toby just did a really rubbish grubber, which went nowhere. I don't forget. It's not up. Predict team only. Okay. It's on Fox. It's up on Facebook on the Matty John Show right now. Just use ChatGPT, laugh out loud. Max King. It's up on the Bulldogs app. All right, let's go. Bulldogs. Sorry, guys and gals. 2 Bulldogs to represent New South Wales Blues in game 1. Max King, 17. Well, there you go. They left Oitikamanu out and Olakawatu out. Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Stephen Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, Zach Lomax, Mitchell Moses, Nathan Cleary. Let me show it on here, guys, for those who haven't seen it. Let's present. Can we see that, everyone? Edwards, To'o, Crichton, Mitchell, Lomax, Moses, Cleary, Barnett, Robson, Payne Huss, Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, Isaiah, Connor Watson, Spencer Lenu, Hudson Young, and Max King. Campbell Graham on standby for Latrell, for Stephen Crichton. Stefan Oitikamanu will be on standby for Payne Huss. And Hamoli Olakawatu may find himself as the 18th man potentially, unless they carry one of those other 2 in. But you never know who's going to be 18th man at that point. Honestly, I would be having Max King start and bringing on Barnett for impact. I don't mind the side. I think you can get plenty of minutes out of Young, plenty of minutes out of King, plenty out of Barnett, plenty out of Huss. It's not a bad side. I'm happy with that. Obviously, would have preferred if we had a Jacob Kiraz or a Matty Burton in the side, but that is going to mean Hughes isn't back this week. EK, he will be back. He will be if he passes a fitness test on Wednesday. He's definitely on the cusp of playing. They'll make the decision based on what he shows them on Wednesday. Wednesday's when they do a massive test usually. Gus said 1 more week, but he's going to give him until later in the week. Yeah, they're making... What Gus said, from what I read, is that they're going to give him until later in the week, but they've got to weigh up the decision. Just give him another week off, actually gives him 2 weeks off, which means he'll be fully, no questions. He'll be fully ready to go in 2 weeks. So that's the safer option. They believe in the depth they've got at the club. They know it's a long way. They don't need to. He also made a comment that he doesn't need to, push people in that don't need to be in. But it'll depend on Sam. If Sam's ready to play 20, 25 minutes on Wednesday, he'll come in. I've no doubt about it. If he's not ready, he won't. That'll be determined by him and the staff on Wednesday. So that's the word from camp. And, but I will tell you who will be playing. Jack Underhill. So, look, my predicted side was pretty bloody close. I can tell you that now. I had everyone in there except Burton. But they never named a 21st player, and I did. So Burton, in my opinion, would be 21. So I had every player there, just had him in the wrong order. So I was pretty happy with that. Olakwatu has been very inconsistent lately, despite Manly arresting a form slump of late. Preston was available. I think he's ahead of Olakwatu. Maybe. One thing that Laurie Daly said he didn't want to do was debut people in Queensland. So it would be a debut for Max King. But I think there's been some people fall off the radar due to injury and whatever else. And I believe in Preston. Look, Preston wouldn't have been ahead of Hudson Young or Olakwatu, I don't believe. In my opinion, I think he should have been. I think he's a better player than both. But they're three completely different players, but I think that Preston has a bit of Hudson Young as far as his energy and his tenacity, and a bit of Olakwatu in the way that he can, in the strength that he has. He's not as big, obviously, and he's a lot smaller than Olakwatu, but he plays bigger than he is. Plays way bigger. Hope Crichton takes a rest. We need him playing every game later in the year, but I'm a selfish Bulldogs fan. I don't blame you. Gratitude. What is happening with Anari Tuala? Not sure yet. Someone needs to get on there and ask Gus. Where's Anari Tuala? But Jonathan Sewer will be playing, so I'll get my team back up again. G'day, Mondi. Welcome. I think Hughes might have to come back in with King off to Origin and DSF out with HIA. Critta with a groin and Kiraz gone for 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, well, you did miss the start of it, buddy, but I'll get my predicted lineup for next week back up. So it'll be Connor Tracy, Blake Wilson will play right wing, Bronson Cherry left centre, Jonathan Sewell will play right centre. Marcelo Montoya left wing, Matty Burton, Toby Sexton. I think this is what they'll name Tuesday. Josh Curran will come in for DSF with Reed Marnie. Max King will be out. Sam Hughes will fill that spot. Kick out, Harry Hayes. Not sure if Kurt Mann will play Origin yet, but he'll be there if he doesn't. Bailey Haywood, Lipboy Hopboy, Curtis Moran, Luke Smith. And you will find Jack Underhill. So Jack Underhill will take his place in that side. So I'm going to put the forward pack again that I think is actually going to happen. I think Sam Hughes, with Max King being selected, will, if he passes this test, he'll definitely play. So I think we'll see Sam Hughes, Josh Curran will go into the starting lineup with Marnie, and I think we'll also see Sam Hughes start. So Curran will be looking to play 25, 30 minutes to start the match. He's obviously going to be freshened after his 3 weeks off. And we know how fit he is. I think they're going to, in this case, they will keep Harry Hayes on that edge and try and keep his combination with Toby Sexton going, considering they're going to now bring in Jonathan Sewer and Blake Wilson on that wing. Blake's played quite a few games on that wing, so only Sewer's the real difference on that right edge, with Harry getting that game with Toby last week against a good opposition. That's going to put him in good stead. I'm not sure. Look, it's going to be Kurt Mann. We'll start at 13. 14 will be Haywood, who's been doing really good stuff for us coming off the bench. 15 will be Hopboy. 16 will be Moran. And I do believe that they'll bring in Jack Underhill. I think he'll take his place in the side at the expense of Luke Smith. Considering we've lost DSF and Max King, we need to replace them with some genuine forwards. Genuine props. I think that's what will happen. I think Luke Smith and either what's his bloody Jake Turpin or Drew Hutchison will be on standby for Kurt Mann. So that's my belief there. So this is my forward pack, guys, that I think will start next Thursday against the Dolphins. This upcoming Thursday, I think it'll be Josh Curran and Sam Hughes to start. Kickow, Harry Hayes on the right edge, Kurt Mann at lock, Haywood, Hopoi, Moran, and I think Jack Underhill will come into the side. That won't be their numbers on their back. I think they'll name Luke Smith in the 17 on Tuesday. Then you'll have Luke Smith, Jake Turpin, and Drew Hutchison. Now, if Kurt Mann comes out of the side, they can either bring Luke Smith back into the team, which they may do, which may elevate Moran into that sort of lock playing role. Or Josh Curran can drop back there when Moran comes on and Curran plays a few more minutes, or they'll bring either Turpin or Hutchison into that role. So there's lots that they can do, and put Luke Smith out onto that right edge like they did last week, and bring Harry back into the middle, give him a rest, then bring him back on if need be. There's lots that they can do, but you know, I really hope Sam Hughes plays, because I just think with his he'll definitely need the run. But it puts us in good stead, I think, for him to get that run under his belt. If he's not ready, obviously leave him the hell out of there. Underhill comes in. Luke Smith stays, keeps his spot. And then if Kurt Mann's out of the team, they bring in a Jake Turpin or a Drew Hutchison. Or even a Cassius Tiers, another one they may consider to play in that sort of role. But that's probably just pushing the envelope a little bit too far when you've got Sewer coming in. You know, a lot of changes. But that's Origin, yeah? That's what you want. This is when the baby Bulldogs, the bull pups, get to show their stuff. And there's a lot of pups out there already. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do. I think that's what we're going to see. We'll see if Kurt Mann's named or not. And there's still the option, you know, Reid Marnie is still an outside chance for Queensland, but I think he might be picked on an extended squad potentially. He could be picked as well. And then they got to decide, do they bring in a Jake Turpin to play hooker and then have to rotate him with a Bailey Haywood? So many things can happen when it comes to State of Origin, and when your team is clear on top of the ladder. Where are we up to? Lots of messages. Reports where Anari was ahead of Montoya during the preseason before his injury. That may be, but you know, it's look, Montoya. I feel he struggles in the wet. He goes all right, but he needs to wind up. He needs to get that hip pointed out. You know, breaks people's jaws when they go low on him when he sticks his hip out. He had a lot of runs for no meters on the weekend. Struggled a couple of times. Did some really good things as well. Made a real important catch when we were under pressure, when they nearly scored. Made some important tackles. Made a couple of bad misses as well. Luckily didn't. Threw that pass out the back and that where Toya knocked on, you know. I just find he's a bit heavy-footed in that sort of going, and you would be too when you've got thighs the size of Marcelo Montoya. I just think in those conditions, someone a bit more fleet-footed is able to bend down a bit lower or dive on a ball or whatever. I don't know. He's played well. I've loved Marcello. Anari Tuala, the thing I know about him, and it's the same with Kurt Mann, he's very well respected at the Newcastle Knights, and the fans loved him. The way he conducted himself in public, the way that he, the efforts he put in, he was a bit of a Mr. Fix-It. But the way look, Anari's one of these players where I wasn't excited about his signature. But then you watch him then come and play for us and you go, wow, great buy by the club, you know. As an outsider coming in, they're the ones you sort of go, oh, what's, you know, trust the process, whatever. But I was never excited about him in their side. You know, whoever I matched up with Anari Tuala in our team, even when we were doing poorly, I was sort of like, oh, our player's better, you know. But they obviously see something in him, and there was great reports about him in training. And I just think his conduct is he's very well respected and a really good human from what I've heard. Queensland squad is up to, man is named for Queensland. Matty John Show is a possible side they just spoke about. Oh, okay. Thanks, old fella. Curran is back this week, thank God. Yeah, I messaged Gus about it the other day. I said, is Curran back? I already knew. Wanted him to elaborate on it. Daniel Saifetti back from injury for the Finns this week. Ray staying missing through injury. Daniel's a bit of hit and miss, especially after a game off. So that sort of might cancel out if Sam Hughes plays, I think. G'day, John Pierre. How good is it that Max King's debuting for New South Wales? Rewarded with all that hard work and elite performances, Max King is officially now an elite rep forward. He's officially an elite rep forward. That's correct. And now, you know, when he outplays his value at the club, he can go and enjoy a really good bloody final contract. Hopefully stays injury free. And this is the thing and other people don't understand about Max King. He's nearly played every game for us, but he's actually been busted for at least 50% of it. Like literally had broken hands, had bones in his feet that were broken, had bones in his legs that were broken, you know, wearing moon boots the whole week before coming out and playing. You know, this guy he is tough as nails. And he deserves every good thing to happen to him. If you've ever watched, there's a show on Channel 10 called The Dog Father, which is about this pommy guy who knows how to manage problem animals. And his model girlfriend or wife now, I think, they've had a baby and everything since. But she had a fur baby that just used to carry on, you know. And Max was going to leave her if she couldn't get the dog sorted. You know, they go to cafes and they just carry on. Little, sort of like my little dog. And and the dog father showed Max and his girlfriend. It was on TV on Channel 10. So it's come a long way since then, Max. Really good, really strong Christian, really good. Just does a lot of good stuff. You know, and this is what I hate about fans and shit. You know, I'm on the kennel.net, which has been a great place to get information, like the website and stuff. Finally went on there. I'd been looking at it for years, joined up, but the shit rumors that people used to put on there about players in our club and just the crap that just used to go on that fucking thing. And it's like so toxic. It's still there a little bit as well. It's not as bad because we're now winning, but people were saying, oh, everyone's off Max King because all he cares about is his girlfriend and shit like that, you know. Or, you know, Kiraz doesn't want to play wing and he's threatened to quit the club. Like, there's all this sort of shit that goes on there. So what I suggest is stay away from that place. Or if you see stuff like that, call it out and make sure they're fans and call out the bloody moderators of that and ask them to fucking deal with that shit. You know, we should never need to hear stuff like that or read stuff like that about our players in our club, you know. Even if some of it's true, it's like, I don't understand why fans would want to try and destabilise our club. Anyway, I don't know why I got onto that, but bit tired. Drew Hutchison or Turpin will be 18th man. Big chance. And a big chance they can come in. If Kurtman is selected for Queensland, they'll either bring Luke Smith back into the club and get a Moran playing that role or something like that. Maybe start Haywood, which they haven't really done. Or even there's a chance they start Underhill or Hotboy and bring, like, Hotboy could start. He could do it. Definitely he could do it. No doubt. I'm keeping Hayes on an edge or on the bench because he just adds that energy, which is so important to us. They might put Curran to 13 and start an Underhill and Hughes if Hughes plays. If Hughes is out, well, Smith will definitely be in the squad again. But yeah, Jack Underhill will be playing this week. Today's Reg. It'll be good to have boys in camp. Max and Kurt will come back even better for the experience. If Kurt plays, yeah, I don't think that was an official squad name, but they've probably got some good mail, I reckon. So I'd be getting prepared for the fact that Kurt Mann isn't in the team as well. 4-point game against the Dolphins with a bye afterward, 100%. Warriors versus Raiders next week at the Warriors. I think Warriors will be smarting after round 1 loss in Vegas against the Raiders. Yeah, well, both sides aren't going to lose too many players. They're obviously losing Barnett, and James Fisher-Harris will be suspended. I have no doubt about that. He will be suspended, so they'll be missing 2 of their big men. But they've got some Rolls-Royce forwards waiting to do their thing. But that's, I think the Raiders are a huge chance, even without Hudson Young and potentially without Corey Horsburgh again. They could be a good bet. I thought when Tolman played for the Doggers, he was much maligned like King, but has changed that with his selection for New South Wales. I thought Tolman was unlucky not to get picked. Yeah, I thought that a few times as well. But, yeah. I think Max King has shown... I felt by the time Tolman sort of hit a peak and then it was a gradual decline, where King is still on that incline. You go through his stats, it's just a continued year-on-year increase in his post-contact meters, and average post-contact meters per game, his meters per game, and average meters per game. And the stats that I actually break it down a lot further. I put on a spreadsheet, right? And I look at all the minutes they play, and I look at all the I look at all the games they play in minutes, and I look at their stats based on how many minutes. So how many meters per minute, how many post-contact meters per minute, all that sort of stuff. How many meters per run. And it was quite surprising. I've talked about it before, but just to reiterate to people who haven't heard it, Max King and Josh Curran last year both averaged 45 minutes per game. I think it was within 20 seconds of each other. King was the best meter eater per game. And this year, he's actually gone up another level altogether. Curran's obviously had a real impacted season with suspension, missing a total of 4 matches so far due to suspension, which has put a bit of a dent in what he's doing. The good part is we need him to go out there and just play a long-minute game, do the hard work, tough work, take the carries, and, and really keep his target low. Not that he could have helped any of those hits, really. I felt his was probably the worst of the night, as far as that he wasn't really impacted against the Broncos out of all the suspensions. I felt, obviously, the lifted knee from Satili is always going to be looked at unfavourably, but the other head highs like Burton's one and that, I just felt they were moving laterally, had other mitigating factors there, players falling down, whereas Josh sort of did just lean his shoulder into a jaw. But the fact he got 3 weeks, he should have just been getting a fine or 1 week, because the trial match suspension was absolutely ridiculous. So there you go. So before we go, look, this was supposed to be the Roosters Bulldogs review. And the way that we played, I felt there was some really good stuff in there, even though we're down 14-0. So I'm going to get this up for us now. And let's share it. Here we go. All right. So the team stats ended up 50-50 possession. They had 18 seconds more of the ball than we did over the 2 halves. We completed at 81%, 35 from 43 versus 31 from 46. They had an extra 22 more runs than we had, and made an extra, say, 73 metres. But metres per run, we won that battle. So we were doing a lot more with a lot less. Post-contact metres, we won that battle, and off 179 hit-ups to 201. That's a really good win for us. 4 line breaks each, made 7 less tackle breaks, which works out pretty even based on the amount of runs they had with the footy. Average set distance, we made about a metre more, and they were getting more kick return meters. So Savala's kicking game did a really good job for them. Average play the ball speed, both teams did a good job in that regard, 3.3 and 3.4. It was a game we played up tempo the whole match. We wanted to keep the ball in play. We knew, because the Roosters, you look at their games, that they want to play as type of football that the elite teams play, and you can say we're playing like an elite side. And this is where I go back to the coaching. This is what Serrato was wanting from day one in 2023. This is what we couldn't do. Coaches like Dean Pay and Trent Barrett basically were trying to get out, were so desperate to win matches. And not saying Serrato wasn't desperate to win matches, but he had a much more long-term vision than these guys, and that's why the other ones lost their job. They played to a style of slowing the game down, trying hard to slow down the ruck. We gave away a lot of penalties over those periods, under the ruck a lot. And yeah, it was hard to generate, and it was hard to stop teams' momentum. Under Serrato, we're playing an up-tempo game. They don't want to kick the ball out unless we've been under sufferance and they know we need a break. But for the most part, it's like, no, let's keep going until they break. And the first really good description of that, you go back to the Penrith game last year, you watch the first 25, 30 minutes before Cleary sort of did a couple of good things before he hurt his hammy. That was the best first 25 minutes I'd seen of rugby league for the entire season from any side. It was our first game against them at Penrith Park. And that's where we started to see that our team was prepared to go toe for toe with teams, which is why we were able to win so many close matches last year and get that run going. And what we're seeing now is no surprise if you go back and just look at how this coach and this club has put the pieces in place and kept working on this mentality. 80 minutes, 80 minutes, 80 minutes. Luke Smith, you've been playing centre your whole career and second row. You've been playing full games your whole career. Your mindset is that you can play for as long as we need you to play. Same with Jacob Preston. Same with Josh Curran. Same with all these players. Harry Hayes. Jamin Salmon. You aren't looking for a break after 20 minutes. You want to play the full game. You have to be told, you're disappointed when they take you off. You want to stay on for longer. That's the team we've built. Offload. So the Roosters really attacked the game. 12-7. Ours were as we needed. Tough conditions. Pretty close in most of the stats. They defused 75% of kicks, which is surprising considering how many they dropped. 8 bombs to our 5, considering I believe they dropped 4 of them, which is I don't agree with that stat at all. Effective tackle percentage about the same. We missed a few more tackles. We ended up making only one more, but that's normally how it rolls with us. But look, they had 29 missed tackles, but in 3 of the tries we scored, they didn't get a touch on us. So there was 3 of our line breaks, they didn't actually get a finger on our player. Or at least 1 or 2 of their players missed us completely. Victor Radley missed Cherry and Burton. He rushed out in the middle. They just made him look pedestrian. Connor Watson, another one. I think he got a hand on Cherry, though. But they don't count as misses if they don't get a touch on them. Isn't that funny? Ineffective tackles about the same. 17 errors for the Chooks. What are the errors from? From the way we just kept turning it in, playing through the middle until they crack. And there you go. Penalties 4 each. They got 1-6 again. We got none. We're inside the 10 twice. Ended up using our 8. Reed and Connor made heaps of tackles. Connor Tracy again with the meters. Really good line break by Jacob Kiraz. He threw the pass for Tracy. He was a bit behind him. That was a much needed run in the game. And I said if we scored in that first 10 minutes, the Roosters were going to shit themselves, and it's exactly what happened. They kept playing, but we let them off the hook a couple of times with a couple of poor errors when we were getting ahead of ourselves, I think. So Lipboy Hotboy played 45 minutes straight. Luke Smith played 27. Curtis played 25. Kurt Mann played 38. So he had 2 stints. Bo Hayward played 58. Harry Hayes 64 minutes. And Max King 55 minutes. So it was really well spread across. And Saluka Fafita only played 8. Post-contact, Max King, 64 post-contact. He had 17 hit-ups for 179 metres, which was great. Lipboy, 14 hit-ups for 138, but Lipboy had the majority in the first half. Max played bigger minutes in the second half. Post-contact, 47 for Lipboy is really good from 14 hit-ups. But Max has gone to another level with his post-contact meters in this season. Line breaks, Bailey got 1, Matty got 1, Bronson got 1, and Jacob got 1. Tackle busts. 3 for Viliami Kickout, 3 for Max, 4 for Toby Sexton. So he had a good game, Toby. Bronson had 5. So did Kiraz. And the average play the ball speed is another thing that I really like to look at. So good contributions from everyone. Critta, again, was the lowest performer. He had stepped up massively in that regard the last few weeks, but he was impacted by injury for a lot of that game. Connor Tracy, 2.91 seconds over a full game is just brilliant play. And Connor got hit high numerous times as well. There's one tackle he got hit high twice by the same bloke and suffered a crusher at the same time, and nothing was done on it. Really pissed me off. Matty Burton, 2.9 seconds play the ball speed. Very dialed in. And Lipboy Hotboy, 3.4, which was a really good effort. He was in the under 3 the week before. 3 offloads for Kiraz, which were essential. He could have done more. I remember he held one back and he laughed about it. A few missed tackles for Marcello on the weekend. Made 4, missed 5. Toby, great effort, 21 tackles, 1 missed. Max King, 31 tackles, none missed. Kick out 26, Harry Hayes 37, Kurt Mann 29, worked his ass off. Bailey Hayward 28, Moran 16, Hotboy 25, and Luke Smith made 12 tackles. And that's pretty much the tail of the tape right there, guys. Few errors. The Chilean Warrior made 3 errors. One each for Connor, Jacob, and Critta. 1 for Kickout and Maxi King. So there's your stats for the team. It's good to see. Let's have a look what everyone's had to say, and then we'll head off because we'll have another podcast on Tuesday. Og style. Trifella still weighs off coming back for Dolphin. Will be Avrilo Azarko at fullback. If anyone's a worry, it would be containing Herbie. He's a danger man for that side. Yeah, well, there's a few. Definitely agree that Herbie's an absolute beast. He tries so hard. Lipoy's a weapon, says John Pierre. Timmy says, Izzy Katoa is a very classy 7. Joe Johns loves watching him play. Our start will need to be better. I think it will be better. I think they're going to go out there and both sides will be looking to do the dominance. But our Bulldog side's going to play its game. And I think they will look to play a bit of football as well, even with a few new combinations. And they're going to count on their fitness to get them there. But, you know, we get a player who's got the potential to play 80 minutes and Josh Curran back into our side, which is good for us. Now, Underhill, whilst he's never had to do it in this level, he's going to come into our side and play, I believe he'll play at least 30 minutes. They've had him play 70-minute games in Cup. They've had him playing a lot of the 45-minute, 50-minute games. If he's fully recovered from that little rib cartilage thing, he will definitely be playing for us this week. I don't think it'll be Zion Mayu, but he would come under consideration if there's no Sam Hughes either, because he is that bigger body, and I think he could go. I just doubt him playing 20 minutes in the NRL successfully. I think he could play 15 minutes. So, yeah, it's all going to come down to who's going to be able to do that job. And we are getting thinner. But they'll have Curran there for sure. And maybe they will start a Harry Hayes in the middle and bring these other guys off the bench. But I don't think that's how it'll work. So, David, we may limp into the bye. Hutch may have to play centre. Yeah, he could, but it'll be Jonathan Sewer, mate. Jonathan Sewer will be playing centre with Blake Wilson. They'll both withdrawn from last week's game in preparation for it. That's my full belief, knowing what I know from what I've seen unfold. Anyway, guys, or Luke Smith to centre, he could play as well. I mentioned him as a possibility today, but I think it will definitely be Jonathan Sewer, but I could be wrong. I believe he was pulled. Him and Blake Wilson didn't play Cup on Saturday because they knew Critta and Kiraz were out for our Dolphins match. Anyway, people, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for coming and saying hello on a Sunday night. Time to go. I'll see you all on Tuesday. Go the Dogs, and good luck to Kurt Mann if he gets selected for Queensland or anyone else who may get selected for Queensland. We'll talk soon. Take care.